As part of my introduction of our esteemed guest visitor, I'd like to remind some of us that back in the 1940s, when Yogananda established a string of churches in Southern California and Arizona, he always had in each of his churches, which he called churches of all religions. He said he had two pulpits, one for the resident minister and one for visiting ministers of like mind. And it is my joy and honor and privilege to introduce this wonderful soul, Jamal Rahman. Please welcome.
My dear friends, what a sincere joy and honor it is to be here. I'm not only a Muslim, I'm also a Bengali. So I don't know of any Bengali of any religious denomination who has love and admiration for this great master, Yogananda. Well, let me prove my point. আমি অনেক আনন্দ অনুভব করছি এবং খুবই খুশি যে আমি এখানে এসেছি দয়া মায়া করুণা সম্বন্ধে আপনাদের সাথে একটু আলোচনা করতে. I just showed off a little bit, proving that I speak some Bengali. So I'll talk about compassion in Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he once said that all that exists in the holy books exists in the Quran, and all that exists in the Quran exists in the Surah Fatiha. That's the first chapter of the Quran. And all that exists in the Surah Fatiha exists in the Basmallah. And what is the Basmallah? The Basmallah is the opening statement which opens virtually all of the 114 chapters of the Quran. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Literally meaning, in the name of God, who is boundlessly compassionate, who is infinitely merciful. This is called the Basmallah. So a Bedouin once asked the Prophet Muhammad, how can I have the Basmallah be bestowed upon me? What is the secret of the Basmallah? And the Prophet Muhammad famously said, it's simply this, that you understand and cultivate compassion for yourself and compassion for others. That is the secret to life. Therefore, in Islam, spiritual masters, spiritual teachers, some of whom are called Sufis, Sufi teachers, they are very fervent about explaining the power, the majesty, the beauty of this divine quality, compassion. And how can you explain that? Not just in Islam, other traditions also. They use the metaphor of water to explain this. There is nothing as soft and yielding as water is, yet for overcoming the hardest, the most insurmountable, there's nothing as powerful as water is. Meaning, the person who is compassionate, gentle, merciful, is possessed of authentic, genuine strength. That, as the Quran suggests, wherever water falls, life flourishes. Meaning, whoever is gentle, compassionate, merciful is also life-bestowing, life-affirming. You know, you know this wonderful poet Tagore, and if I remember, he has this beautiful poetry, not hammer strokes, but the gentle dance of water turns the pebbles into perfection. But his words are sings the pebbles into perfection. I know you know Rumi also, 13th century, and if you remember his poetry, how should spring bring forth a garden on hard stone? Become earth so you may grow flowers of many colors, for you have been a heart-breaking rock. Just once, for the sake of experiment, become earth. So again, Sufi teachers will tell stories why it's important to be gentle with yourself. So rather than talk too much, they just tell a story. And the story is always through the mullah, who is that comic hero in Islam. You know, the sage and the village idiot rolled into one. And so every mullah story has many levels of meaning. And by the way, in Islam, wine is a metaphor for knowledge. So here's the mullah in the tavern, just drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. It's 4 o'clock. He stumbles out of the tavern and just walks aimlessly, and a policeman accosts him and says, "Sir, who are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing at this time of the morning? Where are you going?" The mullah says, "Sir, if I knew the answer to all those questions, I would be home already." One level of meaning is, Brother Jamal, you have no idea who you are, where you came from, what you're doing here on planet Earth, and where you're going. Don't pretend you don't know. Be gentle with yourself. It's okay. You'll be taken care of. Be compassionate. Carl Jung, who studied many Eastern traditions, he has this famous saying that you excuse an insult, that you feed the hungry, that you forgive the enemy. These are beautiful, beautiful things you do, righteous deeds. But what if the poorest of the beggars, the most impudent of the offenders, is you? It is you who is in need of the alms of your own kindness. Then what? So, a very critical teaching of the Sufis is, please understand the vibration, the power, the majesty of gentleness, compassion, and be gentle with yourself. If I'm not gentle and compassionate with myself, I can never authentically be gentle and compassionate with you. I might learn the script, but the varnish will not hide the grain. So what does it mean to be compassionate with myself? In spiritual programs, you know, it's like a whole day, a whole week, a whole month, a whole year, a whole lifetime of learning. What does it mean to be compassionate with yourself? But I think for me, one meaning is, Brother Jamal, that's what I call myself, by the way, Brother Jamal. And that's a whole different technique. It's called sacred naming. Give a sacred name to yourself that when you use that name with yourself, it evokes mercy and gentleness for yourself. So I and Brother Jamal, since I was very young, have a very close relationship. I and Brother Jamal talk all the time. So I tell myself when I have these difficult feelings, anger, sadness, a pain, an internal pain, bitterness, I tell myself, Brother Jamal, it's okay, it's okay. Of course, don't do something which would have repercussions. Don't slam the door or hit someone or say something which you cannot take back. But know that these are just energies, these difficult feelings. Because it's a world of duality, we'll experience them. These difficult feelings are just energies. They have an edge only because they're separated from us. And they're begging to be acknowledged, to be embraced, to be loved, and to be integrated. That is how you become what Sufis call insan-e-kamil, a more perfected human being. Not by shutting them out, but by, even as Carl Jung said, by kissing them. Carl Jung. For once in your life, will you have the courage and the grace to kiss the demons and dragons within you? That is how they turn into a prince or princess. He also said you don't become enlightened only by embracing the light. Yes, that is the way. You also become enlightened by embracing your shadows. So a lot of emphasis on being gentle with our difficult feelings, finding spiritual techniques of acknowledging them, embracing them, and integrating them within you. So in Islamic spirituality, they say a disagreement between two people, yes, it's about what happened, the circumstances, he said this, she said that, this happened, that happened, it's important. But what is really important from a spiritual perspective is what feelings came up for each party. What difficult feelings came up. Because it's those difficult feelings which came up which I need to embrace, acknowledge, touch, kiss, for me to become a more fully developed human being. That is why in the Quran it says, the human being, if they do this work, inner work, like I'd heard previously, they can rise, the Quran says, higher than angels. Angels are filled with light. They cannot feel the hate, the bitterness, the jealousy, the anger, which we human beings feel. That's why the Buddha in Dhammapada says, Indra became the king of the gods by doing this work, by being mindful, by watching, it says in Dhammapada, by watching, by observing. Okay, so I've dwelt on that. I want to say another very important point about what it means to be compassionate with yourself. It means, can I, as a spiritual practice, which is in every single tradition, can I witness myself, observe myself for a lifetime? But with what? And this is the key. With compassion for yourself. Because you're far more than your personality. What is a personality? Nothing more than a bundle of conditioned reactions to life's circumstances. And how will I ever reach or awaken to my, what is called the divine spark, unless I'm able to shed the light on the layers of my negative ego qualities as they unfold, as I peel them off like I'm peeling an onion. Because the key is, as we know, we have to awaken to our divine spark. I'm quoting a statement from the Fuji Declaration, which for decades has been wondering, decades I've been thinking, how do we solve the momentous problems we have in our world today? And these are religious people, non-religious people, Nobel Prize winners, scientists, non-scientists. And their statement is, we simply have to awaken to the divine spark which exists in every single human being and live by its light in every aspect of our life. So observing ourselves is a beautiful spiritual practice. We all know this. In Islam, Prophet Muhammad said, know thyself, and you shall know thy sustainer, the divine spark, the goddess within you. The Buddha said, know others, you become wise. Know yourself, you become enlightened. So, again, here enters the mullah. Observe yourself, become aware, shine the light of compassionate awareness on yourself, and be grateful for the ego qualities, traits you discover. Why grateful? Because you have become aware of it, and the light will diminish it. Become aware of the divine qualities flowing through you, and pray that they may flourish within you, like the sun grows the plants. So, I'm saying the obvious, but how quickly we forget. Brother Jamal, witness yourself with compassion, with mercy. How will you go beyond those layers of your ego unless you shine the light on yourself? Okay, here's the story. On a moonlit night, the mullah is on one of his constitutional walks. He passes by a well, and he's shocked as he looks inside the well. Why? The moon has fallen into the well. Sister Moon, fear not. He rushes home, gets a rope and a hook. He flings it down, he catches something. He heaves and pushes and pulls. It comes loose, and he falls on his back and sees the moon restored to its proper domain. And he says, thank God I came along. So again, many levels of meaning. I keep repeating that. But one level is the ego has such an exaggerated opinion about itself. Can I become aware of that? Can I reflect on that? Can I laugh about that? Okay, another one which is a favorite one when we Interfaith Amigos, we travel all around the country, we repeat this again and again, the cheese sandwich story. The mullah goes to work, opens his lunch pail box at lunchtime. What does he find? A cheese sandwich. But second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, it's always a lousy cheese sandwich. 10th day, I'm getting sick and tired of this lousy cheese sandwich. His puzzled co-workers say, Mullah, why don't you ask your wife, be gentle with her, be persuasive, to make you a different kind of sandwich? I'm not married. Who makes them? I do. So can I become aware of my stuckness? This, many Sufi teachers will say, one of the biggest problems. We are stuck. And we're blaming everything outside of us. Bad luck. He did that, she did that. But I'm not looking inside. A quick story, of course you remember Occupy Seattle. We used to have a lot of meetings in our house of worship, Occupy Seattle. We used to really rail against those huge corporations, especially banks, terrible banks. And suddenly one of us said, but wait a minute. I asked myself also, Brother Jamal, where do you bank? And I realized I was caught in that cheese sandwich. Stuck in a situation. Okay, another quick one. We are asked with compassion to become aware of how we are so slavishly dependent on authorities and experts. Think about it. Where do you get your guidance, your wisdom from? Every morning I get up, I open up the New York Times, the Washington Post, my favorite columnists. So a good question, with mercy, with gentleness. Where am I getting my guidance from? Why do I really connect with my inner teacher? As the Prophet Muhammad asked us to ask ourselves, do I consult my heart? Do I? Brother Jamal, do you really consult your heart? The story is of the mullah who's gravely ill, and his wife is wailing and wailing and wailing and crying on the verge of death. And now in comes the authority. Who's that? That allopathic doctor with degrees from Harvard and Yale and different places. He examines the mullah at length, then very ceremoniously turns towards the mullah's wife and says, "Oh, honorable wife of the mullah, your husband is no more. The Quran says only Allah is immortal, your husband is dead. His soul has flown to the bosom of God." He goes on poetically, but the mullah is not dead. He is not dead. He's feebly saying, "I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive." What does the wife say? "Quiet, don't argue with the doctor." But then the key again is Be gentle. Be compassionate with yourself. As you observe yourself, it's okay. That's just my personality. Okay, let me tell you one more mullah story, since my learning has been mostly through mullah stories. And by the way, I'm keeping a close watch on the time, because I don't know if you know, an Easterner will just talk and talk and talk and talk till somebody starts to snore. But today I shall be compassionate as I look at the clock. Okay, another one is be gentle and compassionate with yourself, Brother Jamal, and ask yourself this question mercifully. Do you speak the truth? Do you live the truth? It's a very important question. Do I really live the truth? Do I really speak the truth? Do I really act on the truth? Or is it truth of convenience? A key difference. There is truth and there is truth of convenience. So the story is, the mullah is giving a big party. He doesn't have a large pot. So he goes to his neighbor's door, because he knows the housewife has a huge pot. He knocks on the door and he sees what his request is, and the housewife doesn't want to give the pot, but you know the rules of hospitality require that. So she gives him the large pot, and he has a huge party. He comes back the next day to return the large pot, but he also brings a small pot. She says, "What's this small pot?" She says, "Madam, didn't you know? Your pot, your large pot, was pregnant. It gave birth to this child." And you know, the wife said, "Oh, thank you. I had an idea that my pot was pregnant. Thank you for taking care of the delivery." Next month, here comes the mullah, again wants to borrow the large pot. She's very happy to give it to him, but next day, a few days later, a week later, no mullah, no pot. She finally goes to his door, says, "Mullah, where's my pot?" She says, "Madam, didn't you know your pot was pregnant? It died in childbirth." She said, "Ridiculous, how can a pot be pregnant?" He says, "Madam, you believed it the first time." Story of our lives. Truth of convenience. It's okay, Brother Jamal, be compassionate. Be compassionate. Change it. Make the adjustment through awareness. Make a shift, little by little. Okay, very quickly moving on to, what does it mean to be compassionate with others? It simply means, in one sense, make a discernment between behavior and being. A person's behavior might be unacceptable, evil. But the person's essence, being, is sacred. It is Christ nature, Buddha nature, Allah nature. Like the wonderful great mystic, I believe 16th century Kabir, he says, in dealing with a person who is adversarial, do what is right. Do what is right. Don't allow yourself to be abused. Take the right action. Say the right words. Call the police. Bring a lawsuit if you have to. But I beg you, as you do that, please do not keep this person's essence or being out of your heart. And just keeping this discernment in your mind and heart between behavior and being has the power to shift heaven and earth. One last point and I'll finish. Is God compassionate? Is God really compassionate? Tsunamis, despots, Holocaust, the Shoah. Where is God in all of this? I get clients from time to time who say, "Please help me. I want to heal on one condition. you never mention the word God. And I don't. But here is the greater mystery. You know, there's no answer to this question. Why do terrible things happen to innocent people? There is no answer to it. Best answer is silence. But to me the greater mystery is this, that these people who come to me betting 100%, who say never mention the word God, after they have done their work as best they can of healing themselves. To me the greatest mystery is that these people who said never mention God, but they have done the work of healing, they become the most ardent, devoted devotees of God. So much so that whenever I meet them, they're always talking about God. So much so that I'm always remembering this Sufi song in Urdu which says, Allah hame Allah walo se bachaye, which means, oh God, save me from all these God lovers. There's a beautiful story, they say a true story of a Bedouin who was asked, do you believe in God? Do you believe in the all-compassionate God, as the Quran says, God is all-compassionate? And the Bedouin said, you mean the God who sent me afflictions, gave me illnesses, poverty, made me wander from country to country to country. But as he spoke, he entered into a state of ecstasy. But now the big question which we encounter, we've been to a lot of places, Intimate Amigos, where they talk about karma and, you know, what happens to your life. Jewish friends have said, really? What about the Holocaust? Were we all such bad people? So here is what a Sufi understanding. The Quran says, before humanity descended upon earth, God asked all the human beings to come to God. And God spoke to them and said, am I not your sustainer? And we said, yes, 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 yes. And we promised when you go to earth, we shall do wonderful things. And then God said, and this is a mythology borrowed from African Sufism. God said, because the Quran says God sent the souls back to earth. But in this mythology, God says, before you go, let me take you to a cosmic tree. And on the tree, huge cosmic tree, on the branches are packages of different size. Small packages, medium packages, huge packages. And God says, these are all packages of suffering. You are free to choose whichever ones you want. But take one before you descend upon earth. And among those souls, there were those who were more compassionate, very compassionate. They all volunteered to take the larger packages. And so when today I meet someone who is suffering, I don't understand why. Innocent people, poorest of the poor. I am so compassionately grateful to them that they took the larger packages. So may we all truly be compassionate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.